whatever. But I love the running back talent and the wide receiver talent. There's just weapons all over the board in this draft. Usually, usually draft classes are big time offensive line, and this year, I mean, there's a few at the top, and then after that, it kind of just fizzles out. So, I mean, but when you look at running back, when you look at wide receiver, it's just stacked throughout. There's so much depth.
Yeah.
And obviously, wide receiver is the easy answer. Defensive backs. But I want to say running backs just because there's three running backs here that I think could be potential, starters for NFL franchise. That like potential that could be Josh Jacobs, stuff like that with Swift, Dobbins, and Taylor. And a lot of people sleep on them because a lot of people sleep on that running back game now. But I really like these guys. So.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just a really well-balanced draft. I think in years past, I wouldn't say on the defensive end it's the best class that we've ever seen, but as far as an overall balance of defense and offense, there's some really, really good prospects in there that you wouldn't necessarily see there's a potential that Swift, Taylor, and Dobbins, all don't make it in the first round. There's a potential for some really, really good wide receivers who maybe in drafts prior would go early in the first round to be still available late in the first round. And because of that, because of what the offense brings, it means there's going to be some really good value on the defensive players as well. I know when we were doing this mock draft, I almost wanted to keep going all the way into the next round because I'm like, there's still so many names on here that I want to talk about and project where they're going to go. And that's what I really like about that is I think for the NFL as a whole, a lot of teams are going to get better just in this class alone.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of day one starters.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I guess we can get started with the number one overall pick. I don't think it's a huge surprise to many people what this pick will be, and I think the same will go for the NFL. But that is quarterback Joe Burrow of the LSU Tigers. He is the best quarterback in the draft, I would say. I wouldn't. He has the most draft capital of all the quarterbacks. I think there's another quarterback in there that I like better, but I think that what Joe Burrow did his season at LSU with the offense and just breaking all the records, for me, he's the clear number one overall pick, and I really don't see the Bengals. They're not going to pick someone else unless they trade down, but there's no way that they use this number one pick for anything else, in my opinion. I don't know about you, but would you agree with that?
Yeah, he's the safest bet out of all of them.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting with Joe Burrow. Tua, you don't know because of Justin Herbert, you don't know because he's been so up and down. Jordan Love, you don't know because he was good 2 years ago and he was bad last year. So this is the safest pick, 100%.
Yeah. All right, talk about the number 2 overall prospect for. I guess this would be the number 1 overall prospect.
He's the number 1 overall prospect for sure.
But the number 1, the number 2 overall pick. Talk about who you're going with there for the Redskins.
Yeah, I hate it because I love this guy so much. Now I'm going to have to see him in one of our divisional rivals. But Chaisson, defensive end from Ohio State, obviously. He's a freak, man. He's a freak of nature, and he showed it so many times. Yes, he started to, those last few games, everybody kind of doubts his game tape. But I was like, okay, you had 12 games of phenomenal game tape.
Yeah.
And then the last 2, he's getting triple teamed every game, and it's like, oh, now you want to. He was getting triple teamed, so he's just a freak, man. He's Joey Bosa, he's Nick Bosa, but everybody says he's even better.
Yeah.
And you've seen how those 2 have worked out, both being top 4 picks as well. So
yeah,
it's clear cut. He would be number 1 in any other draft if it wasn't a team at like the Bengals that
need a quarterback.
Yeah. So
it's
Chase Young.
Yeah, I'm in 100% agreement there as well. Chase Young, unfortunately, we had to face him twice at Wisconsin, and basically he did the exact same thing both times. And I think we actually had a plan for him the second time, but he still made a difference, and that's what he's going to do in the pros. You saw it with Bosa and the other Bosa as well. Both Bosa brothers were great, and even when teams began scheming around them. They still made a way to make an impact, and I just really hope that this works out for him with the Redskins and that they go about it the right way. But I mean, either way, he's going to be a difference maker on that team for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so on to the number 3 overall pick. I am going to go with another Ohio State player. Man, honestly, when we were doing this, I couldn't believe how many times I was drafting players from Ohio State, and man, you guys just have some great prospects. Even later in the draft too, there's some really good ones as well. But I'm going to go with Jeff Okudah, cornerback out of Ohio State. I think that he is by far the best defensive cornerback / safety in that mix. I think that he is definitely the best prospect, and I would say by far the best that we've seen in the last couple of years. You look at what he did at Ohio State, and even I think that was in that interview that when that guy was asking him, was that Jeff Okudah when the reporter was asking him about, he's like, oh, sometimes you seem to get lazy.
Oh yes, no, it's
Sloppy, yeah. And he's like, and he questions, he's like, when did you see me get sloppy? He's like, when did you see me get pass interference calls? And I mean, really,
0 penalties.
No, like he was one of the cleanest players, but also the most efficient and effective players for that Ohio State defense. And he's not just a great defender, but he's a great run stopper as well. He's not afraid to get his nose up there at the line of scrimmage and make stops. And I think that for the Lions, I think this is the clear pick that they have to make. Just to shore up that defense, moving on from Darius Slay. I think this is a really good replacement, and it could save the head coach's job there, depending on what he's able to do on this side of the ball. So that's my pick for the Detroit Lions. How about the number 4 overall pick, the New York Giants?
Oh man, could you put it on? I'm sorry, I forget. we texted all these and I can't remember. It's Andrew Thomas.
Andrew Thomas, yeah.
Right. Pretty simple. Daniel Jones and even Eli Manning before Daniel Jones, they have no pass protection. Guys like Eric Flowers have been a bust. They've been trying to shore up that offensive line and it just has failed. So Andrew Thomas, arguably, 1A, 1B with like a Tristan Wirfs or Mekhi Becton. Like there's a few offensive linemen that with, and I just feel like this one is the best fit for them.
Yeah.
Slot him, you can put him at the left tackle spot, whatever, but you need to protect your franchise running back and your future franchise quarterback, and give them time. So this is just the no-brainer pick, and even Gettleman, the GM, said it. He was like, it's obvious our number 1 need is offensive line. So
yeah.
I thought maybe Isaiah Simmons here because they could use some help pass rush defense, but it doesn't matter. I don't care how good your defense is. If your offense can't block for your quarterback, you're not going to score. You're not going to score points, and they need help there. So.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I think, sometimes when you're in those top 4 or 5 picks of the draft, you really want to see your team go out and get a playmaker. But, it's a good thing when you have to go out and get a lineman because that means that you have the playmakers that you feel like you have. And, they have the quarterback, they have Saquon Barkley, they have some decent depth at wide receiver. They'll probably add some more here in the later rounds of the draft. But just to be able to go, like you said, protect your 2 biggest assets in Saquon and Daniel Jones, that's a pretty clear-cut decision there. Okay, and then moving on to the 5th overall pick. I think a lot of people were expecting Tua with this pick, but I just am really, really falling in love with Justin Herbert. I don't know if the Dolphins will actually make this move, but I feel like he's just soaring up people's draft boards, and there is, quite a bit of question marks and unknown over Tua and his health. Do I think that Tua is a great pro quarterback? Yes. Do I think he's the most talented of the 3? I would actually probably say yes, but I think for me the injury concerns here, I think that the Dolphins go with Justin Herbert, the quarterback out of Oregon. I really like him. He's got a really, really big frame. He's athletic. I think that he would fit well in that offense, especially if they go ahead and get another running back one of the top 3 running backs in this class. I think that he would do really good there. So that obviously, what do you want to add?
Yeah.
You want to add to that, or you want to just move to the next pick?
No, no, you're good. I don't blame it at all. I think Tua, just because Miami has been linked to him for so long, but I wouldn't be surprised or upset at this pick either.
Yeah.
But Miami fans, I do want to warn you. Last guys passed on the quarterback because you were worried about their health. They went to New Orleans and won a Super Bowl. So
that is true. That is true.
Be careful.
Yeah, that's true.
So either way, Tua was going to go 5 if it was me to Miami, and then I would have Herbert slotted here at 6 to Chargers. But there you go. So Tua is here for me just because. Hey, I think Tua goes to Miami just personally, but honestly, this is a better fit because they've talked about how they want Tyrod to, play the whole year. He's going to be the guy. So this is a perfect spot for Tua to be able to sit and rest and not be forced into playing,
Yeah.
Like where in Miami, you might be forced into playing before he's ready or before he's 100% healthy. So if Tua would go here, man, it would be dangerous, especially with those weapons, a year from now. So yeah, Tua to the Chargers.
Yeah, and I would love to see him in LA with the Chargers. They got the new stadium coming, and they made the move to LA I think 2 years ago it was. And I think, like you said, he'd be great sitting out a year, just learning the offense, getting fully healthy, sitting under Tyrod Taylor, and then coming in. I could see him coming in at some point during the season and getting reps there, similar to the Baker Mayfield with Tyrod Taylor. But I mean, either way, I think the Dolphins or the Chargers are going to get a great quarterback, whether it's reversed here. But I am truly excited to see Tua in the NFL. It seems like we've been waiting ever since he made that throw in the national championship game, and finally it's his time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. For their careers, I feel like the Chargers is a better fit for both of those guys. Yeah. So I mean, it's really looking at it like whichever one goes there definitely has the way better opportunity for the future. Just because you've seen how bad Miami has operated, but
yeah. Moving on to the 7th overall pick, the Carolina Panthers. I think this would be a steal for the Panthers if Isaiah Simmons were to fall all the way down to them at number 7. And I've actually seen this mocked in multiple mock drafts of this actually happening. But Isaiah Simmons, linebacker out of Clemson. Anthony, you talked about him a couple episodes ago, just about the difference that he made in that Ohio State Clemson game. But if you go in YouTube, Isaiah Simmons highlights, this guy is all over the field, whether it's stopping the run, whether it's making an impact in the passing game. But he crosses all the T's, dots all the I's. From a physical standpoint, he has great speed, and he's going to be a good pillar of an NFL defense for a long time to come, I believe.
Yeah. He's Tyrann Mathieu in a defensive end linebacker side.
Yeah, just bigger.
Like literally, he's everything that Tyrann Mathieu is, just big.
Yeah,
it's insane. He's a freak.
Yeah, he's going to be a good one. I remember you talked about like it was like an interception or something. You're like, oh, who was that safety? And then you looked and it was Isaiah Simmons. But I mean, he's shown that he's great in pass coverage as well, which is generally something that college linebackers have to adapt to and get faster for. But he looks great.
Yeah, I mean, dude, so many people have talked about how he's literally right there with Chaisson. So to get that value of 7, it's obviously because of quarterback needs and because, but man, if you can get the second best player in the draft at number 7 overall.
Yeah. Okay, so next is the 8th overall pick for the Arizona Cardinals. Anthony, you made that one. I think this is a really, really good pick, but talk about this lineman out of Iowa.
Yeah, Tristan Wirfs. So, I mean, he blew it up at the combine. Freak athlete. Crazy athletic for offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And if you just look at the offensive style, it's very similar. I remember back when Chip Kelly was at Oregon, what he started to do was recruit smaller offensive linemen that could move and be more agile because of that offense. The spread, boom, boom, boom. So they have more endurance. They're able to withstand it. And this guy just fits this kind of offensive style that Kingsbury and Kyler Murray and them want to run.
Right.
The up tempo. He won't get tired. I know they don't do that at Iowa, but he shows that he has the speed and the agility to get out and he can get out and block for a screen or for a read option, all that stuff. So it's just a pick. And I mean, again, you invested. Anytime you invest a number one pick in a quarterback, really 2 straight years they invested their top 10 pick in a quarterback.
Yeah,
so it's
true.
To invest in the offensive line.
Yeah,
and he has weapons. He has running back. Get him some line help.
Yeah,
so.
Plenty of weapons. Yeah. What do you remember? What his 40 time was? Was it in the 4.5s? I felt like a 4.5 or something. I just remember something
Tristan
off the
Bruce.
charts.
Yeah, it was a 4.86. But it's the fastest of all the offensive linemen.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that's sure. It was sub 5.
Yeah. It was like a 4.86, but it looked like a 4.5 because you see this big 300-pound man looking, and we're like, dang, he is flying.
Yeah. I think he's going to be a good one, and similar to the Giants, they have some good weapons. They obviously have DeAndre Hopkins, Kenyon Drake, still got Larry Fitzgerald, so you just want to get protection for Kyler Murray and the rest of that offense, and then I would assume they'll probably make some defensive moves in the draft as well to just shore up that side of the ball. So moving to the number 9 overall pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I chose Derrick Brown, defensive lineman out of Auburn. This guy is an animal. He's huge. He is athletic for his size, and he tore it up in the SEC this year. I really enjoyed watching him at Auburn just because you get to watch him face off against some of the best teams like Alabama, LSU, good offenses, and Georgia as well. And there was a couple games, I believe it was Georgia or Alabama, where he made like 3 stops in a row, just coming straight through the line, sacking the quarterback, stopping the run. But just based on the situation that the Jaguars have, I think that this is the move that they have to make on the defensive side of the ball. They got some players there that aren't happy, that want to move out, and I think that this is a good replacement for them. Get a good rookie defensive lineman to shore up that middle of the field.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's a stud. Coming into the last college football season, he was projected to be number 1 or 2 draft. So with Young. But a lot of people think they could go wide receiver here, but why? When I think they have the 20th pick. Is what.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of wide receivers to go around. You can get one at 20, and this is the clear-cut favorite right here. It's a steal at number 9. Isaiah Simmons is number 7, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think kind of similar, like you just said about Isaiah Simmons. He could definitely Chase Young, Isaiah Simmons, and Derrick Brown could have gone 1, 2, 3. It's just a matter of those quarterback needs early on. So I'm excited to see what he does for the Jaguars defense, because you think of what their defense was a couple of years ago when they went. The defense basically carried them to that AFC Championship game, and now it's pretty much fallen apart again with the departure of Ramsey. I think that he is a good building piece for them to shore up the defense again.
Yeah, definitely. On to number 10, the Browns. I just felt like the smart, safe pick here is just offensive line. Again, same thing we said with the Cardinals, with the Giants. There's no more weapons needed.
Yeah.
The defense could use a little bit of help, losing Joe Schobert and stuff like that, Christian Kirksey. But the offensive line was so bad last year.
Yeah.
You've got to give Baker Mayfield a chance with these weapons.
Yeah.
And this is arguably probably the best lineman on the board at this point. Obviously, the Browns would love for Andrew Thomas or Tristan Wirfs to drop here, I think.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's not going that way, so we had to go with Becton here. But yeah, he's a good offensive lineman, very reliable. He's very disciplined, and it's just a perfect fit for what the Browns need. So.
Yeah. That's a good pick. The Browns also made a off-season move, getting that lineman from Tennessee, correct? So
yes, Jack Conklin.
Yeah. So that's definitely the direction that they're moving is getting Baker Mayfield more time. more help, more protection. And when you made this pick, I did have to chuckle and laugh thinking of Justin, who came on a couple episodes ago talking about what he would do if the Browns somehow did not pick an offensive lineman. So I was like, yeah,
this was for you, Justin.
yeah, Anthony being a smart GM for you. Okay, so moving on to the number 11 overall pick, the New York Jets. It was pretty clear, I think, to everyone what the Jets are going to do here in picking Jeudy. But I actually went with Jedrick Wills, a offensive lineman out of Alabama for the Jets. And the reason that I did that is because the Jets do have some other pretty good draft picks with good draft capital. And just based on this wide receiver class, I could potentially see them trading out of this pick and moving down because the wide receiver class is so deep. And, they have Jameson Crowder, they got Brashad Perryman. They lost Robbie Anderson, so I think Jeudy would be a great fit. But I could also see them kind of squeezing out some more value, adding some protection for Sam Darnold and getting Le'Veon Bell, some holes in the run game because a lot of people forget that he's still in the backfield there. He just wasn't able to do a whole lot last year. So I went with Wills out of Alabama. I really like him as a prospect. I think he's one of the best offensive linemen in this class, and to get him all the way down at number 11, or to just potentially trade this pick away, I think would be a good move. But that kind of shook things up for the rest of the wide receivers. And what do you like Wills, Anthony? Did you watch much of him in college?
Well, I mean, to be honest, if you're an offensive lineman for Alabama, I'll trust you because Nick Saban ain't going to let you just destroy his run game or destroy his quarterback. So obviously he's got some talent. And yeah, he is. He's a big body. He's great. I think he started there for a while.
Yeah,
I might be wrong. But yeah, I know a few Jets fans that will probably be upset by that pick. But just let me tell you, I know it hasn't worked out for the Cowboys in the Super Bowl wise, right? But when everybody talks about the Cowboys, what's their number one strength? It's offensive line.
Right.
Okay? For 2 or 3 straight years, I watched the Cowboys when we had, an elite quarterback or an elite wide receiver or something on the draft board that fell to us, and I'm like, oh, here we go, we're going to do it. And then Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, and every single year I was like, but hey, that's worked out. So just trust. Yeah. But Noah said was perfect. The draft capital they have later on, they can get a Denzel Mims or something like that later on. Trust us.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I like that pick. Obviously, when you sent it, I was like, I thought he was going to Jeudy or CeeDee.
Yeah.
But so
we'll see.
With that being said, 12, the Las Vegas Raiders, Jeudy, because why not? We talked about it on our AFC West. They need it. They need the help. Jeudy, like I've said so many times, he's like Amari Cooper, very similar to Amari Cooper. And I think they probably realize now, they won't say it or admit it, but I guarantee you they realize now, like, dang, wish we didn't trade Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
So go get Amari Cooper 2.0 and give him back to Derek Carr, because Derek Carr was his most successful, was his number one guy. So
yeah.
He's a can't-miss prospect, honestly. He's not going to be a bust at wide receiver. There's some wide receivers that I'm sure they'll end up being a bust, like a Laquan Treadwell. But this guy is a DK Metcalf type. He's an A.J. Brown. He's a can't-miss. He's not going to blow it in the NFL. So,
Yeah, I mean, like you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, he's the best route runner in this class and continues a long line of Alabama receivers that have come into the league and just blown it up. And one that he could have been playing alongside was Amari Cooper. But, I mean, this guy runs as crisp of routes as you've ever seen. He's got great speed and agility to make moves and get into the end zone. And, I mean, the Raiders have to get a wide receiver here in the draft. If it's Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs, one of those three, they got to get Derek Carr some help and at least give them the sanity of knowing we gave Derek Carr a chance with good weapons, because up to this point, he had the 1 year with Amari Cooper and Crabtree his first year, but then after that, everything has kind of fallen apart. So we will see there, but I really like Jeudy to the Raiders. Moving on to the 13th overall pick is the San Francisco 49ers. You'll remember they traded away DeForest Buckner to the Colts and got in return the 13th overall pick. So um, the 49ers, when you look at their team, they have so much depth. But they have some needs at offensive line, and they have some needs in the secondary with an aging Richard Sherman. So with the 13th overall pick, I went with cornerback out of Florida, C.J. Henderson. I know. I think, is this the second cornerback off the board? I think it is.
Yep.
Yeah, him and Okudah. I really like C.J. Henderson, and honestly, I didn't know much about him until I think it was like a month ago when I was like, hey, I did this mock draft for the Cowboys. Like, here's the cornerback I got, and Anthony's like, no, you want C.J. Henderson, like at this pick. He's like, we want him there. And then I started watching, looking up some stats from him at Florida, watching his film, and this guy flies around the field. Not as well polished as Okudah, but to be the second cornerback taken all the way down at 13, he's really, really good value and gives the 49ers, again, just an added weapon on defense to play alongside Richard Sherman for another year or two, and then become that staple name of the 49ers secondary. There's been talks of them going wide receiver here as well, but they're another team that has another pick later in the first round. So, and like we said, the class is very, very deep. So that, they could use that pick there as well. But probably more about C.J. Henderson than me. What do you like about him so much?
He's just a typical Florida DB, and just the SEC DB. He's physical. He's going to meet you with the ball. He's going to do his best to either intercept the ball or he's making sure you're not catching it. If anybody's catching it, it's him. So I just like him. He's just physical and he's just very good. He's just a very solid defensive back, like usual, comes out of the LSU, Alabama, of Florida.
Yeah.
So, I know when you sent that, I was like, oh, I want him. I really want him. He's a lockdown corner that Dallas needs that can actually intercept the football.
Right.
But yeah, let's go to the Tampa Bay Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski Buccaneers.
Yes, holy cow.
So clearly, they have the weapons, and they just added another one, obviously, with Gronk. The defense wasn't horrible last year. They could use some help on the defensive side, but they made a couple moves to bring defensive guys back that were key. So I feel like the best thing to do is, hey, give Tom Brady some help on the line. And I don't know much about Josh Jones, but I just know he was one of the best tackles available at this point.
Yep.
So hey, let's get him. Let's see if we can plug him in from day one and help Tom Brady and give him time to throw. So
yeah. I think a lot of people would be like, oh, the Buccaneers need a running back. They should take a running back here, one of the top guys.
Not here. They could trade down right here.
Yeah, that is true. But definitely, I think they'll do their most to give Tom Brady that protection from an offensive line standpoint, because that's when the ball is in his hands when he's throwing it, not just handing it off. So they'll definitely either trade down or take some type of offensive lineman here. That's a great pick.
Yeah.
So that moves us on to the 15th overall pick, which is the Denver Broncos. Surprisingly, CeeDee Lamb is still on the board, and he's still on the board for at least another pick, because I'm going with Henry Ruggs III, wide receiver out of Alabama. I really like Henry Ruggs. He reminds me of Emmanuel Sanders with the Denver Broncos, just with way more speed. But a guy that stretches the field well. We talked about Cortland Sutton in our last episode in the AFC West, and not so much a blazer speed receiver, but a really good route runner, middle of the field guy. So I feel like Henry Ruggs kind of fills that void. He has great speed, and like we talked about, I just have to read these stats again. 12 receptions his freshman year, 6 touchdowns. 46 receptions his sophomore year, 11 touchdowns, and 40 receptions his junior year, 7 touchdowns. So you can't argue his productivity, and I think that's what the Broncos offense needs. they have. I mean, a lot of these teams here in the first 15 picks, they have good offensive weapons. They just really need one more to make it happen. And they got Drew Lock, they got Melvin Gordon, they got Noah Fant last year, and they got Courtland Sutton 2 years ago. And I feel like this is the cherry on the top for that offense, and for Denver to be a competitor once again in the AFC West.
Yeah. So do you just like the fit better for Ruggs? Because I know Lamb is the
yes.
Lamb is definitely the better talent.
Yes.
But okay.
Yeah, I really like
the Emmanuel Sanders aspect.
Yeah, I just don't know how. I feel like they would still need to go and add another piece if they drafted CeeDee Lamb, just because they do need that like a burner guy, and I just think that Henry Ruggs fills that immediately for them. So that's where I went with that.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get the Atlanta Falcons pick up here for you.
It's Chaisson, right?
Yeah, Chaisson. Yep.
Yeah. Chaisson. Just this one was tough for me. I took a while on the Falcons, because I was just like, okay, what do they need? They could use some offensive line help, maybe. They could use defensive back, this and that, linebacker. But then I just looked at it. I was like, you know what? Who's the best player available? Not like weapon wise, and I was like, it's got to be this guy. Falcons. I don't think they don't. Man, I can't think of off my head right now. They had a pass rusher that is just kind of getting old and not doing the greatest. Oh man, blew that one. Whatever. This guy you can plug in from day one. He's going to fit. The pass rush scheme very similar to how it was back in the Seattle days with I can't even think of the coach now. Gus Bradley. Is it Gus Bradley
for the Seahawks?
Yeah, but he coached the Falcons now. Oh my gosh, I'm blowing this. Let me see. Atlanta Falcons head coach. Sorry, guys. Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn, yeah.
Dan Quinn, before I even Dan Quinn, when he was, coaching in Seattle and they had the Legion of Boom.
Yep.
They had that great pass rush with Michael Bennett and, and those guys. He's a perfect player that fits that system.
Yeah.
So he's a great edge rusher and he'll be a great fit for this Falcons. They need that, especially if you look at the division. Yeah. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Teddy Bridgewater, whatever. But Christian McCaffrey, yeah, you're going to need somebody to put pressure on these guys.
Yeah.
So.
I lost.
I had fumbled that one.
That's okay. I fumbled the draft picks and I can't find the Cowboys pick.
We're all the way at 24 right now. 25.
Okay, I missed the 17th overall pick. I'll have to put that in there. I'm going back.
We'll get there.
Is Vic Beasley still on?
That's who.
Is he still with the Falcons?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, I think when I think of this prospect, that's who I think of as well.
Yes. No, he's Titans now.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. And that's
why moved on.
when you made that pick, I remember seeing that they had moved on from him, and so I thought, okay, this is a great replacement.
Yeah, I thought too it was. Gosh, I feel like I just blew a 28-3 lead or something.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the Cowboys. Again, I did not get their little thing here on the bottom, but we will get up there. Yeah, just look at Anthony's screen. That's what we're talking about. So we talked about the Jets passing on a wide receiver, and what it basically opened up was for the Cowboys to get CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver out of Oklahoma, which would be a great pick. Another offensive weapon for the Cowboys, talking about Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Zeke, and Blake Jarwin, and Dak. So those are all great names that you would love to have on your team, and hopefully with that they can put it all together on the field. But yeah, it would be surprising to see CeeDee Lamb drop all the way to 16, I think, or to 17. But it's definitely a possibility, and you saw it here, and I think that's why a lot of people have been mocking CeeDee Lamb or one of the top receivers to Dallas, just because one of them could fall just based on the needs of the other teams. But CeeDee Lamb is, I think he's the best playmaker of this draft. Out of the wide receivers, he maybe not as much of a physical freak as Jeudy, but he, I would say actually he didn't test as well at the combine as Jeudy.
Yeah.
But I think he's still up there with him as far as physicality, and he's a big frame receiver, and just he's got a great mind and vision on the football field that he can make 1, 2, 3 guys miss at a time and find himself in the end zone any day of the week.
Yeah, I think double-digit touchdowns every year, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would be great, especially the two main guys that everybody is sliding is C.J. Henderson and Chaisson. So if those two are gone, then give me CeeDee all day.
Yeah. Okay, so then moving on to the Miami Dolphins. Anthony, do you remember who you picked here? I think it was Xavier McKinney.
Yes. There you go. Good call. Yeah. Well, Mekhi Fitzpatrick's gone. You got the first-round pick, and I guess it's right here, so it would be Xavier McKinney. So it's basically you turn Mekhi Fitzpatrick into Xavier McKinney. Alabama safety for Alabama safety. But yeah, McKinney it's tough. There's McKinney, there's Delpit. But I just feel like McKinney is. I think McKinney is just the more fundamental. Delpit is a freak. He's a big time Tyrann Mathieu. With McKinney, I see more of like I'm not comparing him to this, but I'm like if the comparisons, I would say McKinney is more Earl Thomas type, to where he's going to be there every down and reliable.
Yeah.
To where Delpit is more Tyrann Mathieu, where it's like he might have a few holes, but he's going to make a big play.
Yeah.
So you can't go wrong with either one. But I just like Xavier McKinney because the Dolphins got to shore up that secondary. They got Byron Jones.
Yeah.
But the safety help. Especially in that division with Stephon Diggs now, you're going to need somebody back deep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. A player that maybe before the NFL Combine had actually been projected to go much sooner and much higher, but just based on how the NFL season finished and the different needs of the teams. Again, I think this is our first or second safety off the board all the way down to 18. He might be the first actual true safety. And so for the Dolphins to get him with their second pick and to already have gotten a first-round pick is really, really great draft value.
Yes.
Okay, so then we move back to the 19th overall pick, which is the Oakland Raiders, and a player that you just mentioned was another safety in Grant Delpit, safety out of LSU. Do you Anthony, remember the safety that they drafted last year?
Last year?
Yeah, he tore his labrum, I believe, in like the first or second game. I think he was from Clemson, I believe. But anyways, it's kind of a similar situation. He'll be back for the Raiders in 2020, but this move makes a lot of sense just to add another a safety back there for the Raiders, and kind of similar to shore up that defense. You got the Chargers, you got the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill, and you got the Broncos. So you're gonna need some guys back there to be the safeties and keep those passes short and underneath.
Jonathan Abram from Mississippi State.
Mississippi State. Okay, that's right.
Yeah. You got Clemson right with Clelin
Ferrell. That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So those were their first-round picks last year, but I think that him and
3 of them, and Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about him. I think those 2 safeties in the backfield will just be great. Abrams is a guy that loves to play up close to the ball as well. And I think that
two dudes that love to hit.
Yeah.
Man, I would hate to play in that division.
Yeah. Just
honestly, with those 2 dudes back there.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So
okay.
I love that pick, though. I love Delpit.
Moving on to the 20th overall pick, Anthony, and you had mentioned this when the Jaguars first picked. I think it was, I forget which pick they had, the 8th or the 9th.
Eric Brown, 9th.
Yeah. You said, a lot of people have them going wide receiver here, but as you see, if you wait, you can still get another household name, and that was Justin Jefferson. Talk about him on the Jaguars.
I mean, you guys hear me talk about Justin Jefferson every episode, so just my favorite. Like, honestly, wherever he goes, I might buy his jersey.
Yeah.
I don't know why I love Justin Jefferson so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's a perfect complement to DJ Shark. Because he can play so many roles in the wide receiver. Last year at LSU, sometimes he plays the slot over the middle of the field, and then he'll hit you with a little, a post route or not post, a corner route or a fade, and over the top he beats you down the sidelines. So he's just a stud. So that's why I mentioned earlier, if you can get Derrick Brown ninth, Justin Jefferson 20th, why do you take Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb ninth when you can get both of these guys and sure up 2 spots? So I just I just love him. I honestly, if CeeDee Lamb is gone, I've said this: if CeeDee Lamb is gone before the Cowboys, when you pick, I wouldn't even mind the Cowboys taking him, just because I love this guy so much. So, and he'll look sweet in that uniform. He just would. So
I mean, Jefferson is another receiver. He could honestly be one of the best. He could honestly end up being the best receiver in this class. That just is his ceiling and his potential. And he played it'll be interesting because he played in a really, really great offense. But I feel like him just being like a number 1, number 2 guy of an NFL receiving core, he's gonna shine. He's just a playmaker, similar to CeeDee Lamb. Like, they just make plays every time the ball gets in their hands. It doesn't have to be a great throw, or it doesn't have to be a deep throw. They just need the ball, and they're going to do something with it. And luckily for you, Anthony, you picked Justin Jefferson right before this next pick for the Philadelphia Eagles, because I know a lot of Eagles fans really would like Justin Jefferson. But with the 21st overall pick, another good receiver, Jalen Reagor, out of TCU. I really like this guy. I think he's going to be great. There's a stat out there that was 60. I think it was 61% of his receptions were on somehow they calculated that 61% of his receptions were on like, it wasn't uncatchable passes, but like it was either underthrown balls or overthrown balls where he had to adjust to make the catch. And if you look at what he was able to do at his time in TCU, based on with the quarterbacks that he played with, the man just put up incredible numbers. He made plays. He's got really, really good speed and experience in the return game as well. So I just think he's a really good, well-rounded receiver. I think the better receiver is Justin Jefferson for the Eagles. But like, if he's not available, I think this is a really good pick for them as well. So that is where I'm going with the 21st overall pick. And then we move on to the 22nd overall pick, Anthony, and this is a defensive end out of Iowa.
Yeah, AJ Epineza, I believe.
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out today too.
AJ Epineza. So there's some mock drafts that have him going earlier. There's some that have him going later. So I just feel with Minnesota, they could potentially go wide receiver here, but I feel like AJ Epineza and just pass rush is just perfect for them. They gotta shore up their pass rush. And Epineza, he reminds me so much. So, like, who wouldn't want another Jared Allen? He was he's a legend for the Vikings. So he's a perfect fit. It's the Big Ten, that Midwest, Iowa to Minnesota. He just seems like he just fits a Minnesota Vikings uniform.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, similar situation for the Vikings, who have 2 first-round picks. There's still some good wide receivers and offensive weapons on the board, so go shore up the defensive side of the ball, and then go get a playmaker coming up in the next couple of picks as well. Okay, so then we go on to the 23rd overall pick, which is the New England Patriots. And let me just remind myself who I got here.
Jordan Love.
That's right. It was Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina. And yeah, Anthony was thinking Jordan Love here. I think a lot of people are thinking Jordan Love as well, being the 4th quarterback off the board. I feel differently. I do. It seems to me like the Patriots came out pretty early and said that Jarrett Stidham is the guy that we want to roll with, which I guess it's not very unlikely of Bill Belichick to say something like that. But for me, it was just kind of a shock based on, they're moving on from a Hall of Fame quarterback, one of the greatest of all time, and immediately they're like, no, this is our next guy. We're not even going to figure out. We're not even going to bring in any guys to compete. Like he's our starter for right now. Wouldn't surprise me if they went and got a quarterback, but I just feel like they're going to go rebuild the defense. They had a lot of guys move on in this offseason on the defensive side of the ball. They still have some pretty good offensive weapons, and I think they want to see what they have in Jarrett Stidham. And potentially go get a quarterback in the later rounds, talking about Jalen Hurts, Jacob Eason, Anthony Miller, one of those quarterbacks. But yeah, what do you say?
Say it. You won't say his name.
Who am I forgetting?
No, you're good. It's a good person to forget. It's always best with you about Jake Fromm.
Jake Fromm.
It's a stud, man.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot him. QB1, Jake Fromm. QB1.
I love Jake Fromm, dude. If it wasn't for Jake Fromm, Justin Fields would not be at Ohio State. Jake Fromm.
Very true. Very true. Okay, moving on to the 24th overall pick, Anthony. This is I'm going to get his name up here, but a linebacker out of LSU.
LSU.
I like this name a lot, Patrick Queen.
Yeah, he's a stud. After Isaiah Simmons, he's probably the best linebacker in the draft. He made his name in LSU's defense this year. He had a big playoff. Obviously, he had a big one playoff. The Oklahoma game doesn't count. I don't care. But he stud, and why not? LSU, New Orleans Saints, it's the backyard. Just go out back, pull a new linebacker in. It seems like they've kind of been missing that fierce linebacker since Jonathan Vilma is retired a few years ago.
Yeah.
Patrick Queen just fits it. He just fits it perfectly. Him and Chaisson, like I said earlier, him and Chaisson were just so deadly. If you can get Patrick Queen out there in linebacker, he can cover some space. He covers some tight ends, especially in that division. With Gronk and OJ Howard, obviously.
Yeah.
But also, you can line him up opposite side of Cameron Jordan to pass rush as well. So he's just a solid player, and this is it just feels like the perfect fit. LSU, New Orleans Saints, 100%.
Yeah, I like that. I like his name, Patrick Queen, like linebacker. He just sounds like a New Orleans Saint linebacker to me. So that's a really good pick. I like him there. And then we move on to the 25th overall pick, which is the Minnesota Vikings. And we talked about getting a defensive end just a few picks earlier, and then there's still value at the wide receiver position. And I have them going with Denzel Mims, wide receiver out of Baylor, who has had a really, really good career in Baylor and in the Big 12. It's evident that the Big 12 does not have very strong defenses, but they have some pretty good offenses to exploit the lack thereof. And I like Mims. He was amazing at the combine. I'll have to go back and actually look at where he ranked in the percentiles among wide receivers, but I know he was up there. I think it was at least in the top 5 of the wide receivers that performed at the combine. So I think that the departure of Stephon Diggs, bringing in a wide receiver like Mims to complement Adam Thielen, and then they obviously have Herb Smith Jr. and Dalvin Cook. Just another playmaker for Kirk Cousins to get the ball to, and I think this guy, he's a really, really good athlete, and similar to Stephon Diggs, who's a really good athlete as well. I think that this guy is just a playmaker that they're going to be able to get the ball in and let him make plays. So,
yeah, when you talk 6'3", 200 plus pounds, and you run a 4.38,
yeah,
that's freak. Yeah. That's legit.
Yeah.
So I love this pick. I've slept on Mims a lot, but now that you talked about him, and I just looked up his stats, his combine and stuff, I was like, man, I didn't even pay attention to him at the combine really.
Yeah.
I think it's so focused on Lamb, Jeudy, Ruggs, like running their 40s, and then Jefferson. But Denzel Mims is such a steal. Is such a good coach.
Yeah, and I didn't really know a whole lot about him until the combine either. And when you see
Yeah.
a player with that kind of production, and then you look at what he does at the combine, you're like, okay, he's going to be a good pro. Okay, so we got another Ohio State player coming off the board here at the 26th overall pick, and that is with the Miami Dolphins. Talk about who you're picking there.
J.K. Dobbins. So obviously everybody knows I'm an Ohio State fan. This isn't a biased pick. I have said, I mean, if you look at our rankings, I believe I had Taylor and Swift ahead of him.
You did, yeah.
But we're talking draft pick and fit, and I know Miami. There's so many reports Miami just loves him.
Yep.
And it's just a perfect fit. So, I mean, I think Swift and Taylor are probably better options. But if Miami's in love with this guy, and I mean, I'm in love with him too. He just ran for over 2,000 yards, dude. Like in the Big Ten, that doesn't happen every year, unless you're Jonathan Taylor or Wisconsin running back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I just feel like Dobbins is just it's a perfect fit. He fits, and this also went with your pick. He fits Justin Herbert's play. A running back that can get out in space, make some catches for him. So
yeah,
I just went with Dobbins here.
Yeah. I think that I read something that Dobbins was one of the first prospects that they contacted. After all this quarantine stuff went down, that they had either contacted him before trying to get him down, or that they had scheduled different Zoom calls and phone interviews with him. And I agree. I think he's a great fit for them. They really seem high on him as a franchise running back of the future. And, despite our differences in college teams, I think that Dobbins will be a really, really good pro. And I think I actually had in my rankings, I had Dobbins as my number one running back, despite being a Jonathan Taylor fan, Wisconsin fan. I like Dobbins a lot. I think that he fits the mold of a good pro running back. Okay, next on to the 27th overall draft pick by the Seattle Seahawks. I have Ezra Cleveland, offensive lineman from Boise State. I just think it's funny that your last name is Cleveland, but you most likely are not going to be playing in Cleveland. But it also would be the most Cleveland thing for Cleveland to actually draft Ezra Cleveland, just simply for the name. But this is a guy that has just popped up on draft boards after the combine, and he's had a really, really good career in the Mountain West Conference, and I think a good value all the way down at the end of the first round for the Seahawks. That's one thing that they have always needed more of is pass protection for Russell Wilson, and just to help that run game. And the Seahawks love to run the football almost more than any team in the NFL, probably besides the Ravens. And I think this is a good pick just to help them accomplish that.
No, it's the smart pick. It's a safe pick. It's a typical Seattle Seahawks pick, honestly.
Okay, next is the Baltimore Ravens. And
28th
we got
overall.
28th overall.
Give me
got
the second best linebacker after Patrick Queen. Well, third, because I say Simmons. Yeah, Kenneth Murray. Sorry, I just remembered. I knew. But yeah, Kenneth Murray. This dude is just at Oklahoma. I believe he dealt with some injury issues, but and honestly, if he didn't have some injury issues and just some stuff like that, he probably would go earlier.
Yeah.
He's elite. He's an All-American. He was great, and I know Big 12 defenses aren't that great, but for this guy, he's a stud, and he's legit, and he just fits the Baltimore Ravens. He just seems like a Baltimore Raven, just like Patrick Queen seems like a Saint. Yeah. There's certain players in the draft every year when you just look at them, it's like they just seem like they belong to that team. And this is what this is. Kenneth Murray, Terrell Suggs, Ray Lewis. He's not those guys, but he has that type of just mentality. He's a great person. He's just a dog. He's a dog that you want in your fight. So Kenneth Murray is just a great pick for the Ravens here, I think.
Yeah. I similar to what you said about the defenses of the Big 12. I was like, oh wow, I haven't even heard of this guy. But then just looking at his stats, he's a really productive linebacker. In the Big 12, you can say what you want about the defenses, but someone's got to go in and make tackles. And Oklahoma, had one of the better defenses in the Big 12, and I think that he is going to be a really good pro linebacker for the Ravens. This is a pretty interesting slot for them because they do have a couple of different needs that they could go wide receiver, they could go running back, they could go a different position on defense, but I think that linebacker is definitely the safest bet just to shore up that side of the ball. Okay, so next is the Tennessee Titans, one of the favorites for I would say Super Bowl favorite, but definitely a favorite to be a contender in the playoffs in 2020. And I'm going with a defensive end out of Penn State. Now, Anthony, you know me and trying to pronounce names. I'm going to say Yetur Gross-Matos.
Sure. I don't know. It could be. It's either Yetur or Yetur. I'm guessing Yetur.
Yeah.
Yetur Gross-Matos.
Yeah. No, this guy was a force for the Nittany Lions in 2019 and his career at Penn State. I think he's going to be a good defensive end. There's some really good defensive ends out of the Big Ten. Chaisson, AJ. Vanessa. And this guy as well, and there's a couple from Michigan as well. So I think that he fits what the Titans are looking for. We talked about them acquiring Vic Beasley in free agency, and I think that he's going to line up really well on the other side of the ball and just be a good edge rusher for the Titans. They have the offensive weapons. They got Derrick Henry. They signed Tannehill. They got A.J. Brown, Jonnu Smith. So I think defense is a good pick here.
Absolutely, it's perfect. He fits Mike Vrabel style player as well. So.
Yeah. Alrighty, and then we have the Green Bay Packers, Anthony, and thank you so much for picking for. I don't know. It worked out like this last year too. I somehow got the Cowboys picks, and you got the Packers picks, and it happened again. Talk about who the Packers should select with the 30th overall pick.
Yeah, it's black on the board. Sorry, T. Higgins. Sorry, T. Higgins is he's such an amazing prospect, and honestly, in any other year, he might be the number one wide receiver off the board. So for him, what is this? We had Jeudy, we had Lamb, we had Ruggs, Mims. Who's the other one that you just had taken for the
Jefferson, Reagor.
So he's the 7th wide receiver off the board here. Man, if you get T. Higgins as the 7th wide receiver taken, man, he has potential to be the best one.
Yeah.
I don't think he will, but I mean, if you look at all the other fits, I mean, T. Higgins has to be the best fit. He has Aaron Rodgers throwing to him. He has Devontae Adams to help him on the other side. So this guy, all he did at Clemson was catch touchdowns. He's elite, very good talent. He could maybe bulk up a little bit.
Yeah,
he's got that long, skinny frame like Randy Moss.
Yeah.
But if you don't run a 4.3 like Randy Moss, then it ain't gonna work.
Right.
But he doesn't drop the ball. He catches everything that comes near him. One of those big Clemson receivers. I think he's 6'4", maybe.
Yeah. 6'4".
He's just a stud, and it just seems like, hey, the Packers, you have to go all in. Your defense is, your run game is set. Get Rodgers some weapons, please, on the outside to throw to, other than Devontae Adams for 10 years when he's So T. Higgins he would just be amazing. So
yeah. I really like T. Higgins. The thing I keep saying is that he scored 25 touchdowns in his last 2 years at Clemson, and he's not the most physically impressive prospect, like you said. He needs to add some weight. He skipped the combine, did his pro day, and even the numbers there weren't super impressive. But 25 touchdowns speaks for itself. He's a playmaker. He catches a lot of contested balls, and pair him up with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, and he's basically, that's what he was doing with Trevor Lawrence in Clemson, and I think he'd be a really good fit. So, thank you, Anthony, for that pick. Okay, next we talked about the 49ers and their options earlier on in the draft, going with C.J. Henderson, and another spot that they need to fill is the offensive tackle position. I'm going with Isaiah Wilson, a tackle out of Georgia. I think that this guy, a lot of people are sleeping on him and what he brings to an offense, but just another really solid offensive tackle out of the SEC, a guy that protected your guy, Jake Fromm, down there in Georgia. The 49ers, honestly, the only question marks is their offensive line. They have a really good offensive line. They just have an aging offensive line with guys like Joe Staley, Mike McGlinchey. But I think Isaiah...
just an old fat man walking outside.
I thought I said the wrong name again.
No, I'm sorry. So sorry.
That was like perfect timing. You looked at me like right as I said it, so I was like, shoot. No, I think it is Mike McGlinchey and Joe Staley, just two veteran offensive linemen. But I think that Isaiah Wilson, they bring him in. He adds some of that depth, takes the workload off of the veteran linemen, and I could see them going wide receiver here as well. But I think the best value with the 31st pick is going to be Isaiah Wilson, a lineman.
Absolutely. I mean, if one of those 7 wide receivers actually fall here,
yeah,
it's probably where they'll go. But that you didn't have that option.
Right. Exactly.
But, so yes, absolutely.
Okay, so then Anthony, we move on to the last pick in the first round.
Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, so we talked about it with all the running backs that they have, but when you have, let's be honest, it's the same. When you have 3 quarterbacks, you don't have one, right? When you have running backs, it's because you don't have one.
Right, exactly.
Except for that little crazy trend for like 2 or 3 years at Ohio State, I guess with all those quarterbacks, that's different.
Yeah.
Usually that's the saying, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, running back by committee, QB by committee, it's not working. So, go get your star running back. You lost Kareem Hunt a couple years ago. This guy, to be honest, I mean, come on. You draft Kareem Hunt from, what, Toledo or something like that?
Yeah, Toledo,
Kent State?
Yeah.
Okay, DeAndre Swift is on another level.
Yeah.
So what Kareem Hunt did in that offense, imagine what DeAndre Swift can do in that offense. So
exactly.
I feel like DeAndre Swift would be a steal here. Obviously, it also could be a spot for Dobbins or Jonathan Taylor. It just depends on who the Chiefs would like,
Yeah.
But I just think DeAndre Swift offers a whole lot here for the Chiefs, and I would just love to see him. He's like a better version of Damian Williams, to be honest. So, I love DeAndre Swift here.
Yeah, I like Swift as well. I think even in my rankings, I think I had Cam Akers second. But I think that Swift would be a great fit. He reminds me a lot of Kareem Hunt, just on a totally different level as a runner. Kareem Hunt was a great pass catching back in that Kansas City offense, and Swift brings that to the offense, but just more so a pure runner. Take the weight off the shoulders of Patrick Mahomes. Just give him a trusted running back that's going to go get 4 or 5 yards a carry, rather than just relying on a veteran Damian Williams more so in the passing game. But like you said, it'll be interesting really at this point who is available. If a wide receiver like T. Higgins is still available in the 30th pick, that would be surprising. And who knows what will happen with the running back positions. I think in my opinion, as we went down the board, there really wasn't a whole lot of teams that I'm like that one of these top 3 running backs, but other than the Dolphins and the Chiefs, there wasn't many teams that I'm like, oh, one of these top 3 backs would just perfectly fit in that offense. So I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise to me if Cam Akers, Jonathan Taylor, Swift, and Dobbins, 2 of those 4 maybe drop all the way down into the second round at the turn. We talked about the Buccaneers. They're going to have a second round draft pick and need a running back. If one of these guys were to fall to them in the second round, that would be a huge steal for them. So it'll just be interesting to see the way that things play out. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Can't wait. Love the draft. Yeah. I know. I'm just so excited to have some sports back, to have something on ESPN other than Michael Jordan documentary. Which, not knocking that, I'm just saying I'm ready for something live that didn't happen a long time ago.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, like we said at the beginning of this episode, we'll be back on Thursday with the live draft stream. So you can hop on YouTube. We'll be posting on our Instagram and posting the links, but you can hop on via YouTube at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. And join in. Let us know when you're in the chat, and we'd love to dialogue with you. And again, if you want to jump on the stream with us and give your analysis of the picks for your team or other teams, if you just want to come on and talk football, just give us a shout out. Email us, DM us, send us a message, comment on this video, and we'd love to have you on and talk some sports.
Yes.
What are you most excited for about the draft, Anthony?
There's a couple things. I think seeing where Tua drops to, and then obviously seeing what the Cowboys do at 17.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of potential players at that 17 spot. So, and I was upset because I kept seeing rumors the last couple days about the Cowboys potentially maybe shop that 17th overall pick for Jamal Adams or something to the Jets. But
yeah.
But Cowboys reporter came out today and said Cowboys aren't trading that first round pick for a veteran. So I was like,
good.
But hey, either way, it's going to be fun. I'm also excited to see where the Ohio State players go. Every year, I love watching to see where the Ohio State players go.
Yeah.
We have about 3 or 4 that could potentially go. I know 2 of them will go top 5.
Yeah.
2 more could potentially go in the first round, with Dobbins, and then possibly Jordan Fuller or Damon Arnett.
Yeah.
They're sleepers in the secondary, but they're both projected second round. So it's possible that somebody like Denzel Ward, nobody expected him to go top 5 a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at him now, so
yeah,
I'm just excited to see. I love to see where Ohio State players always go, obviously, so I can root on them. But yeah, I don't know what. I mean, I guess the same question. Obviously, I know you said the sports. It's gonna be, but
I'm excited to see how the online integration works. I'm just very curious to see if there's any glitches or how this all works out. But I mean, it is we're in the 21st century, so I feel like at this point teams have had a while to kind of prepare for this and get it figured out, and I'm sure it'll take a little bit of adjusting. But teams have IT staff for every single organization that can work on this stuff. So I'm excited to see that. It'll just be a draft like we've never had ever before, and I think for me, I'm just excited for a lot of landing spots for these rookies. I feel like this is of all the years, this might be the year where I literally want to buy like 5 jerseys. There's
right.
I'm like, man, I would love to get a CeeDee Lamb or a Jeudy Raiders jersey. I would love to get a Jonathan Taylor jersey wherever he lands.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of really good players that are going to be on a lot of good teams. And I'm excited to just see landing spots more so, just because I want there to be good fits. So those would be 2 or 3 things that I'm pretty excited about.
It's gonna be fun. I know I want a Joe Burrow jersey so bad, but not a Bengals one.
Yeah, I will say if Tua does drop to the Chargers, I might. The Chargers just released some new jerseys this morning, and I might have to go get a Tua jersey from the LA Chargers, because I have loved the Chargers for a long time since I had LT when I was growing up. But probably a powder blue Tua jersey would be nice.
Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Do you think, dude? I'm expecting Patriots somehow cheat with this virtual thing. Could you imagine it's like all of a sudden the Patriots somehow sneak in like a fake trade?
Yes.
And then they all of a sudden have drafted Tagovailoa 5th overall or something. But
obviously that That would not surprise me.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I'm with you. I can't see the landing spots, especially for fantasy. There's potential fantasy players here. So, like immediate fantasy players, depending on fits.
Yeah.
So, it's very exciting for that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely keep an eye on the wide receiver position. That is definitely going to be one of the biggest hits for fantasy this year. Just this class, almost every single player that we mentioned could come in and be a wide receiver 2 at minimum, starting off right away, if not higher. So we will see. We'll see for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I guess we'll just wrap it up for this episode, and we'll be back on Thursday with you guys. And then after the draft, we'll have tons and tons of content to talk about. We still got to cover the NFC West, the Rams, and the rest of that division. And then we'll just keep rolling into the NFL season and into the fall. So if you guys want to help support the podcast, the best way to do that is to follow us on Instagram. We are at the Couch Scouts Pod. Otherwise, you can subscribe to us on Spotify playlists, Apple playlists, any kind of review, rating helps us out a ton. Get noticed, get mentioned on there, and then as well subscribe to us on YouTube so that you don't miss a single live video every time that we go live. But for the Couch Scouts Sports Podcast, thank you guys for tuning in. He is Anthony Bills, and hopefully we're in a good mood at the end of Thursday night, Anthony.
Hope so, man. I hope so.
All right, we will catch you guys on Thursday. NFL Draft.